Sarah, you recently interviewed Masayoshi Son. He told you about his ambitious plans for multiple funds. What do you make of this new WeWork news?
Well, it fits in with his plans to deploy $100 billion every 2 to 3 years. That's a lot of cash, so the size of the WeWork investment being discussed would fit right in with that. Works for WeWork, which is doing this big expansion into Asia and other areas. The one missing piece is, will it pay off?
Well, and that's the question, David. WeWork was reportedly seeking a $35 billion valuation. This would be much less. It's still losing hundreds of millions of dollars, and it has yet to prove if the revenue that it's bringing in is sustainable and if it will continue to grow at its current pace. Is this a good bet for SoftBank at this size, David?
Well, it might not be a good bet for some people, but both WeWork and SoftBank Vision Fund are shoot the moon operations. So WeWork is a shoot the moon company, and the SoftBank Venture Fund Investment Fund is a shoot the moon investor, and they're basically both willing to make humongous bets, and they're sort of enabling one another. Obviously, if WeWork does raise another $10 billion plus from SoftBank, that allows them to do a whole lot more, and then it begins to be possibly a self-fulfilling prophecy. They aren't making any money; they're far from making money. But if they can expand fast enough and maybe then go public, maybe when the markets remain frothy as they basically continue to be in the public sphere, maybe SoftBank can get their money back, and it'll all be great, even if WeWork doesn't long-term become the only place we all work. And by the way, I work in a WeWork, so WeWorks are good.
I hear they have good drinks on tap, David.
They do.
Look, Masayoshi Son has been very clear. He thinks this is a big opportunity and that they're not going to lose money on the Vision Fund in general. Take a listen to what he had to say last year.
The Vision Fund deal is the preparation for a God-given opportunity similar to the gold rush era that's approaching. We have acceptable money from partners to avoid building debts, and we are sure the fund will be a success. We should be thinking big for this lifetime business opportunity.
That said, Sarah, what kind of returns are investors in the Vision Fund expecting? Are they thinking 2x, 5x? A typical venture capital fund, if it does a good job, is closer to 10x.
Right. So last year, Masa said that the Vision Fund had already returned in excess of 20%, which is, most funds are definitely operating at a loss for their first few years of existence. This is barely a year in. He said his personal rate of return since 2000 has been over 40% annually. So, perhaps ask him what it's been since 99 or 98 before the big .com run-up and crash. But still, that's very impressive over the past 18 years. So investors are hoping some of that personal magic he's had will rub off on the Vision Fund, and he's prepared to make these big, bold bets, even if the bulk of them don't work out. He thinks he's going to have one or two that knock it out of the park, just as he did with Yahoo and Alibaba. It almost became irrelevant that he had dozens more investments that went nowhere. And so because of that track record, investors are prepared to buy in and listen to him. And with WeWork, I think he and the WeWork CEO, Adam Neumann, have kind of a personal connection where they're both prepared to just make these big, brash plans and just think that the world will follow along, and they're kind of betting on social movements as well as just real estate, that more and more people like David are going to end up working out of offices that are more convenient to them than perhaps the offices of the companies that actually they work for.
The Vision Fund has already invested in, we were looking at some of the companies there, Uber, a construction company called Katera, the Indian e-commerce company Flipkart. David, you may love your spot in your WeWork office, but I wonder if there's a concern that SoftBank, by investing so much money in some of these companies, is keeping companies afloat that maybe shouldn't be kept afloat.
I wouldn't go that far yet. I think there's a real risk of that. I mean, we are in an extraordinary up economy, basically really dramatic up markets, beyond what most of us expected. But these companies are growing. You know, and some of the SoftBank investments, like NVIDIA, is a really, really strong company, the other chip company, the name of which is escaping me, which is such an amazing chip company. It was just on your list, but you know, those two chip companies. ARM, thank you. Sorry for my brain. But ARM and NVIDIA, these are like really powerful companies that are already hugely profitable. So those are different kinds of investments. And I think that the amount of money that SoftBank's trying to deploy with the help of some Saudis and others, it's a little dangerous for the economy in general because they have to find these huge bets. And huge bets can go hugely wrong. So far, they haven't. So, you know, let's hope for them that they don't.
Let's talk about the Saudi investment. You know, Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund investing another $45 billion in SoftBank's Vision Fund. Sarah, talk to us about the dynamics there. What does that mean?
Well, it means that the Saudis so far have been really pleased with how the Vision Fund is performing. They have a big investment conference coming up in the next few weeks in Riyadh, and Masayoshi-san is expected to be there, and we'll probably talk about the performance of the fund. And Mohammed bin Salman and Masayoshi-san seem to have forged a relationship that's very simpatico with each other, and they seem very happy with it so far. The interesting thing at SoftBank might be more internally, are all the investment managers on board with this investment? This would be one of the bigger ones at the Vision Fund, and that's another question for SoftBank.
David, what are the political implications of the Saudis having such a huge stake in this fund that is investing in American and globally ambitious companies?
Well, I think the political implications of anything connected to Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince bin Salman are different this week than they were before. If it really does turn out that the Saudis murdered and possibly dismembered a dissident in their consulate in Istanbul, which is looking quite likely, I think the reputation of that country and of that leader will plummet. Many of us who believe in democracy have been somewhat distressed, very distressed by the things we've seen in the more or less autocratic approach that the Crown Prince has taken to changing that country already. Some of them sound good on the face of it, letting women drive, etc. But if the way they're doing it is by becoming, you know, a state that will essentially assassinate its citizens when they criticize them, that's going to color and taint anyone associated with it long term, I believe. So I would say Masayoshi Son should be careful how close he stays with the Crown Prince.